Good evening. This is CTV News for Wednesday, February 21st. I'm Patricia Vallone.
And I'm Denise Douglas. So glad you could join us this evening. Topping our news tonight, a Prince George's police officer is killed while trying to help his neighbor who was involved in a domestic violence incident. Neighbors say police were at the house very often. Byron Scott has the details.
Somebody in the community needed him, knew he was a police officer, and sought him for help and assistance.
It happened just before 10:30 this morning in Brandywine. A woman who was involved in a domestic violence incident knocked on the door of a neighbor, a police officer, asking for help.
He immediately responded to that plea for help, and shortly thereafter found himself in a confrontation with a man armed with a shotgun.
Prince George's County police officer Mujahid Ramzadin was shot and killed.
He led a consequential life, and he suffered a consequential death. But he saved her life by giving his own.
The shooter fled in a car and was caught in Charles County.
I will tell you that the individual who was responsible for this was subsequently shot and killed by Prince George's County police officers. I will tell my community what I know. 2 of our officers were involved in that confrontation.
We just know that they barricaded our home a couple of times last week.
Neighbor and former police officer Earlene Harris says police were at the shooter's house just last week.
I'm sad about the whole thing. One, because that's my brother in blue. 2, just what happened. I have children, my neighbors, they have kids. Anything could have happened to them coming, home or anything, And again, I'm saddened by, the officer being killed. My heart goes out to his family.
Ramzadin was an ex-Marine and on the police force for 13 years. Today was his day off.
Officer Ramzadin was not only an amazing officer, a Valor Award-winning officer, but he just also happened to be his mother's only son. He was the husband to his wife and the father of 4 children. And so we grieve so deeply today with the police department and with every member of the Prince George's County family.
In Brandywine, Byron Scott, CTV News.
Police have not released the name of the alleged shooter. Investigators say he may have owned the guns illegally. ATF has obtained a search warrant for the house.
Meantime, members of the County Council react to the shooting in Brandywine. Councilmember Mary Lehman says today is a sad day for Prince George's.
Just terrible, and it speaks to the risks that our officers take every day. Whether they're officially on or off duty, they're never really off duty. So it's a terrible and very sad day for this county, and our hearts really go out to the whole community of the Prince George's County Police Department, and certainly this individual officer, his family, his loved ones, and friends.
And the council held a moment of silence for the families affected by the tragedy.
Taking a look at political news, some 400,000 Marylanders have been insured under the Affordable Care Act, and now legislators in Annapolis are working to ensure that the gains aren't lost. They have introduced bills that would protect the ACA from attacks from the Trump administration. The measures would create a health insurance down payment program and ensure that Maryland has its own individual mandate when the federal individual plan ends in 2020.
This bill right here is basically, as we said, I was asking someone, how do we say it here in America, is a tool in the toolkit. And it is a very important tool that is needed. It is a way to cover the young people, to encourage them to seek coverage and to make sure that the premiums are low and that everyone can afford it. This is basically not a punishment. It gives people an option to opt out if they want to do so. But if they do not want to do that, is a down payment for a policy. And it is a way to ensure that we keep people enrolled and insure.
The House bill will be heard before a committee tomorrow. The Senate legislation was in committee today.
Well, weeks after the county fires the director of the Family Crisis Center, the council gets an update on its spending practices. Currently, the county auditor is reviewing the crisis center's budget from the last 3 fiscal years. David Van Dyke says the audit is moving forward, but slowly.
We need all of the documents to be able to, have the whole picture in place before we start doing our normal testing. To date, we've got about 75 to maybe 80% of the documents, but still, until we have them all, we can't. We can only work up to a certain point. Some of the documents we're missing are we're still missing some bank statements and copies of consultant contracts for services that we requested at that initial request back in January 22nd, and then copies of reports that were submitted to the state for the fiscal years under that we were planning on auditing.
And the Family Crisis Center serves women and children fleeing domestic abuse. Well, a racial slur used by an employee at a Largo gas station leads to a call for a boycott. Rachel Sherman posted a video that went viral shortly after confronting a person doing state vehicle inspections at this BP. Now, Sherman says the station tried to overcharge her brother for a vehicle reinspection. As she turned to leave, she says the employee used the N-word. The station's owner apologized and fired the worker. We asked residents today their thoughts about the incident.
My opinion about the racial slurs, we should boycott it. Dignity is not accepted. Just it's wrong. It's wrong.
I think it would be a good idea. I mean, we all have to live together. There's no right to calling people names like that.
So the boycott's a good idea?
Yeah, I think so.
Do you know any of the people that work there?
I know everybody that practically works in this store, and hey, some beautiful people. So. Papa Tony. The other guys who work there, I know they are from Iraq, Iran, India. But they're nice and beautiful people.
So you think this is unfair to do?
To boycott? Yeah, very unfair.
And State's Attorney candidate Aisha Braveboy got involved in the incident last week, contacting regional managers and the station's owner. But Braveboy says she is not involved in the boycott.